Hello, good evening, and welcome to the team call. Welcome everybody to the team call tonight. So I'm really excited about doing this training on ProArgi 9 with you all this evening. And I just want to say thank you so much for the feedback that I got about last week's team call. I'm super pleased that it hit the right spot, as it were. You know, as it's cardiovascular month, heart health month, and let's face it, ProArgi 9 is the most awesome supplement in the entire world. I think it deserves its moment in the spotlight. So I'm going to be sharing some training slides about it, going through those, and also sharing some experiences and things along the way. And hopefully there'll be some time for any questions and any stories, depending upon how long it takes me to go through these slides. So let me just do a share screen and we will get going straight away. Here we go. Right, let me just put them on presentation mode. Oops, come on. That's right, the Zoom bar was getting in the way. Here we go. Right, you can all see the slides? Lovely. Here we go then. So ProArgi 9, awesome product. I hope you've all had an experience of it so far, but let's find out why. Okay, so let's have a quick look at the ingredients inside ProArgi 9 Plus. The two main key ingredients to it are the amino acids called L-arginine and L-citrulline. We'll learn more about these in a little while. But it's the compound effect of all of the ingredients. It has a synergistic effect. And so all of the vitamins and minerals that are in it, the vitamin D, the vitamins B3, B9 and B12, C and K2, along with the pomegranate juice and the grape skin extract, that all contribute together to make this the most outstanding product. Every ingredient has a benefit to the whole. It's sweetened with steviol glycosides, which is just a natural plant-based sweetener. L-arginine is an extremely bitter taste, and the majority of people just wouldn't consume it. I mean, maybe in our health world, we might knock it back and say that's done, but if you're thinking about the majority of the population, they just wouldn't. I don't know if you've ever tasted aloe vera before, but it's pretty darn disgusting and not very easy to keep consuming it. So, you know, that bitter taste has to be masked, and stevia was one of the best ways to do it, so that you're not getting that taste. And you'll notice that it kind of starts a bit purple and then goes pink as you stir it when you pour it in. Again, that's just part of the way that the arginine dissolves in the water. So we're going to have a look at some of these ingredients individually and look at how it affects our cardiovascular system. So the L-arginine is 5 grams of free-form pharmaceutical grade L-arginine. So what does this mean? Okay, so a lot of arginine products are like are spliced. They're not the whole form of the L-arginine. It's a spliced, almost like a cut down version of the amino acid. And a lot of the cheaper products can have the L-arginine that comes from things like duck feathers, animal byproducts, even human hair actually. But what the L-arginine here is actually made from plant material, things like tapioca, maize, cane sugar, as in the plant, not the actual sugar component. It's the fermentation process of these plants that creates this pure free form, which means the whole part of the L-arginine, and it's pharmaceutical grade. So it's extremely potent and high grade L-arginine, and not to be compared with L-arginine that you get in Holland and Barrett, for example. It's just on a different class entirely. Now that's mixed with L-citrulline, and L-citrulline is naturally derived. They often get that from melon skin. Actually, I mean, you can go and eat some melon skin, but I wouldn't recommend it. You're better off consuming it in your ProArgi. And then, of course, vitamin D3. Well, we know so much about that more recently. Now we have our own vitamin D product, but there's some in here, not enough to give you your full daily allowance. So you definitely want to be having your vitamin D as well as, but you'll see that it's about how all of the products interact together to create the results. And then vitamins B6, 9 and 12, these really are what help to reduce tiredness and fatigue, support red blood cells, support your nervous system. Vitamin C boosts your white blood cells, your macrophages, helps your immune system. And you're going to see from some examples about how the boosting up the macrophages is going to help to get rid of some of what we call the detritus, or the plaque and the fatty stuff that's been building up inside the arteries. And then vitamin K2, which also helps with healthy arteries, cardiovascular disease, blood coagulation, putting calcium in the bones, and all sorts of benefits there with vitamin K2. The pomegranate also helps to inhibit LDL oxidized cholesterol, and it enhances some of the nitric oxide activity. And the red wine extract in it, the grape skin extract, I should say, that has antioxidants of polyphenols and anthocyanins in. So we're looking at high levels of antioxidants in the grape skin extract and the pomegranate on top of these vitamins and amino acids. So how much should you take? Well, I was talking about this on last week's call. A lot might depend on your age, your size. One size does not fit all. Generally speaking, for the average person over the age of sort of 40, 45, depending upon what lifestyle they might have had leading up to that point, 2 sachets a day would be really well advised. If they've had a super healthy life, maybe one sachet a day if they're in their 20s or 30s would be sufficient. But the older we get, the more our arteries are likely to have blocked up with fat and plaque. And certainly if people have already cardiovascular disease at play, borderline diabetes, type 2, borderline hypertension, high blood pressure, circulatory problems like Raynaud's disease, or cold hands, cold feet, any type of circulatory problems like ulcerated legs, psoriasis or eczema in your lower limbs, things like that, then you're definitely looking at scenarios where you may need to have more. And 3 or 4 a day is a perfectly acceptable dose. And actually, now and again, it's just really good to have that anyway. You might want to try a couple of weeks on 3 or 4 a day if you can stretch to it and see how you feel. Build up to it, of course, if you're not, you're only taking 1 at the moment. But I often have a month where I'll have 4 sachets a day every day, and you feel absolutely blooming amazing. So just gives you the pipes a bit of a blast out. So don't be afraid to have more when you need to. You can have 2 sachets in a single glass. Your body will metabolize 10 grams of L-arginine in one go perfectly well. And there's 5 grams of L-arginine per sachet. So if you're going to have 4, for example, you could have 2 in the morning and 2 in the evening at bedtime. So we'll talk about that at bedtime a little bit later. I'm just reminding myself to do that because that was a question from Paula, but I'll address that later. So why is this product so incredible? So the Nobel Prize for Medicine has been awarded for certain massive breakthroughs in in health and well-being. So for example, the X-ray in 1901, insulin 1923, penicillin 1945. The understanding of the body using the molecule nitric oxide came around 1998. Obviously, a lot of study prior to that led to the breakthrough. And the breakthrough in particular of not just how the body used nitric oxide, but how the body created nitric oxide within itself. And this is the basis of where the product started. And it was with a doctor called Dr. Joe Prendergast, who was the original formulator for ProArgi. And he worked in a cardiovascular clinic, particularly people with diabetes. And he started working with L-arginine around this time, trialing it out with various patients and discovering the most incredible results. In fact, so much so that the story has it that one of the cardiovascular surgeons that he would regularly recommend patients go to for bypass surgery and all sorts of stents and things like that, contacted Joe because he thought that maybe they'd had a falling out that he was unaware of, because Dr. Joe wasn't sending any patients his way anymore. And he said, you know, I'm not sending patients your way because I haven't needed to, because he was using arginine therapy to help his patients. And he was awarded Father of the Year, which is an American high prestigious award for his work in diabetic care. So he helped put ProArgi together back in the day, and I met Dr. Joe Prendergast. You know, he was a really, really interesting character, and very passionate about L-arginine. So the miracle molecule is what nitric oxide has been touted as, and this isn't by synergy. This is in the medical world. It's been known as the miracle molecule, and that's because of the powerful effect it has on influencing our arteries. You know, it literally influences this inner lining of our arteries called the endothelial lining. I'm sorry to get a bit technical here, but this is a single cell lining that lines all of your arteries, 60,000 miles of arteries, from the tiniest capillaries, and you can fit 10 capillaries in a single strand of hair. They are absolutely minuscule to your big trunk arteries that travel up and down the body. You have this lining called the endothelial lining, and it's extremely responsive lining. Now, this is where nitric oxide is made, and what it does is it helps the smooth tissue to expand and widen. It helps all this smooth muscle, which responds to the nitric oxide gas, to relax and widen and create space for the blood to flow. So it's known as a vasodilator because of the fact that it relaxes and widens blood flow to all of your body. Now, this has a massive, massive impact from, you know, every organ from your head to your toes, all of your organs, all of your glands, your skin, you know, everything. Because as we said last week, you know, if the body is stagnant, then healing is not going to be happening. The body requires movement inside itself at a cellular level. And that happens when you increase your blood flow, because it's at these capillary ends that the nutritional exchange is taking place, where, you know, oxygen is leaving the cell wall to provide energy to the cells in that area, and carbon dioxide is being removed. And then, of course, you know, if you think about absorption in your gut, you imagine how many blood vessels you have lining all of your intestines in order to take what you've eaten, which isn't always necessarily a good thing, into your bloodstream to be circulated around your body. You know, plus obviously removal of your toxic waste that the cells produce. So, you know, your blood will flow everything around it. And that's why, you know, when we look at the Purify program and we look at what we're eating, this is why it's so important. And we'll see a bit more later on. So of all of these arteries in our body, like they said, they branch out into tiny little capillaries. But as we age, the arteries become thick. So the muscle, the smooth muscle becomes fatter, the gap narrows, and fat and plaque can start forming inside these arteries. Now, this has been happening inside of us for years and years and years. And it's not until it's further advanced do we start getting the symptoms of it, which could begin with high blood pressure, for example, or a stroke, or you know, Alzheimer's or dementia, or some other circulatory based problems. But that hasn't happened overnight. You know, that has taken a long period of time before your arteries, you know, block up to that point where there's lack of flow in that particular part of your body. And of course, that could be happening all over the place. So I want you to imagine the endothelial lining of your arteries as a remarkable dynamic layer. It's one cell thick, and the cells are tightly packed together like a brick wall. And that's the layer that nitric oxide affects, but it's also the layer that can get damaged very easily. So what damages this lining? Well, of course, signs of leaky gut are going to be putting things in your blood stream that shouldn't be there, that has the potential to damage your arteries. Excess sugar will cause inflammation in your body and be a surefire thing to damage the insides of your arteries. Anything that causes inflammation, any of these chemicals and things like that that we've absorbed through our gut, you know, from our foods, these popular organic pollutants and all of this sort of thing. And this creates damage, it creates tears in this lining. And what happens is it's like the big cholesterol myth. What happens is you get these tears in this lining, and your body will send out cholesterol to repair the tears in the lining. So that's the purpose of cholesterol, really. And of course, the more inflamed we are, the more the liver is pumping it out to repair all of these tears in your endothelial lining. And then this repair material can be a little bit sticky. So other detritus in their blood can get stuck to it. Things like dead skin, you know, dead blood cells and things like that. And so it starts to build into like a sticky substance inside your arteries that then hardens over time. So if you think about your teeth, when you have soft plaque to start with, that then hardens into tartar, that's what's happening inside your arteries. It starts off soft and then it hardens over time. So what we want to do is, in a way, heal this lining, and that's what nitric oxide does, is it heals the lining. So it starts to put the bricks back in the wall to help heal the lining. So it's like a nice, it's almost like it becomes non-stick, like a non-stick frying pan, you know, it's like the lining is healed. And then ingredients like the antioxidants, like the pomegranate, the grape skin, things like that, and the vitamin C with the macrophages boosting the white blood cells, start to mop up the detritus that's on the lining of the wall. So that's how it starts to remove the fat and plaque over time. Now that's not going to happen overnight. That happens over time. So when we enhance our circulation, the main thing is that it reduces stress on the heart. You know, so if you've got high blood pressure, your heart's under a lot of pressure to be pumping that blood around your body. And once we get our arteries more open, more flexible, more pliable, then you're going to reduce stress on your heart. But it's a blood pressure normalizer. And there's plenty of stories of people who had low blood pressure, where they felt, a little bit woozy at times, particularly, when you stand up suddenly and things like that, have found that their blood pressure has just ever so slightly increased to the point where it's felt more comfortable, and there's not such extreme blood pressure change when they're going from laying to standing and sitting to standing. So it helps to normalize the blood pressure. It helps to reduce the LDL oxidized cholesterol, that's the fat and plaque and sticky stuff. It promotes healthy energy levels. It can improve your memory because you've got more circulation in your brain. Helps to maintain healthy sugar levels, helps to increase muscle mass, combats premature aging all around the board, I would say, and supports a healthy inflammatory response. So, how do we get more nitric oxide in our body? So, one of the Nobel Prize winners was Dr. Louis J. Ignarro, and I don't know if you've ever read this book, No More Heart Disease, but it's really quite a simple, interesting read. And he talks very much in there that about how L-arginine is consumed by food and in supplements, and it makes its way into the bloodstream, and as it enters the endothelial cells that line the walls of the blood vessels, an enzymatic reaction occurs. This is called an eNOS reaction for those that like the technical stuff, and this converts L-arginine into nitric oxide. So this is a really interesting read if you wanted to read around the subject a little bit more. He really goes into the history of how they came to the Nobel Prize, and all sorts of useful information there. Or you could recommend someone with cardiovascular disease perhaps have a read of this. And you can see the bold claim on the top, on the front cover, how nitric oxide can prevent, even reverse heart disease and strokes. Now, we can't go around saying that about ProArgi because we'll get in trouble, but the book will do the heavy lifting for you if people were a bit unsure. Now, we consume L-arginine. You can consume 7 ounces of cooked shrimp. You could have 24 ounces of spinach. Or how about 5 ounces of elk? I would try getting that in Waitrose. 49 cups of watercress. Now, good luck with that one. I like my watercress, but I'm not sure to that degree. But you can see it's in our diet, it's in our diet. It's in lots of different things. It's just that it's not necessarily easy to get the amount that you need to activate a healing response, like we was talking about again last week. For the body to heal, it doesn't just need enough for its daily running costs. It needs more than the daily running costs in order to heal. So it's not just a case of looking after the arteries today. You want plenty of L-arginine going in there to start repairing the damage that happened yesterday and all the days before, where this fat and plaque was building up. So people can try eating their way into enough L-arginine, or they can have 1 sachet, which is equivalent of 5,000 milligrams of free-form pharmaceutical grade L-arginine, plus the L-citrulline and all of the extra wonderful ingredients that are in there. So the Hughes Centre for Research, which is Synergy's research centre, had a massive breakthrough with this product. They did some clinical research and data behind it. And you can have a look at the research data. But basically, I'll just go into it a little bit here. They did 2 primary studies on ProArgi. The first study proved that the amino acid in the ProArgi converted into nitric oxide. So, they actually could show that that specific L-arginine supplement became nitric oxide, which supports the healthy circulatory and cardiovascular function. And what they showed is that, L-arginine by itself, can increase nitric oxide, but it's a gradual process. However, the findings of this study are significant because it was the combination of the whole formula that significantly and rapidly increased nitric oxide. Now, I ought to say something about L-citrulline, which I didn't say back at the beginning, but I'll say it now while I think of it. L-citrulline is the second amino acid in ProArgi, and what L-citrulline does is L-citrulline, when it digests, converts into L-arginine in your gut process, and then later converts into nitric oxide. So it goes from L-citrulline to L-arginine to nitric oxide. So it creates almost like a second wave of nitric oxide in your body. So it lengthens the power and ability of the product to create nitric oxide. Because L-arginine by itself is effective, but it's not anywhere near as effective when you have L-arginine and L-citrulline together. That is what makes it so powerful. And then along with all the vitamins and the amino acids, the antioxidants, it was the whole formula that significantly and rapidly increased the levels of nitric oxide in the body. The second study showed that this particular product reduced what's LDL oxidized cholesterol. So it actually had a significant influence on inhibiting the oxidization of LDL cholesterol. So LDL cholesterol in itself is not the baddie, but when it oxidizes, that's when it turns into that fat and plaque in your arteries that's going to set you up for heart disease in the future. So we want to reduce the oxidization of this cholesterol. That's the bad stuff, really. It's called myeloperoxidase. I'm not very good at pronouncing that. But that is the two findings that they had. It 100% creates nitric oxide, and it 100% reduces LDL oxidized cholesterol. So this is really, really significant findings. And this was published in the media. Now, L-arginine is extremely well researched. You can go to pubmed.gov, and actually I double checked on this one today, and there's now, this says 2018, 118,000 papers that cite L-arginine. It's now 130,634. So it's a constantly growing area of investigation, but you can certainly look at any medical papers in PubMed on all manner of different things related to circulation and L-arginine, if you're interested to do so. And this is one of the reasons why it's been listed in the physician's desk reference, which is actually called the prescriber's digital reference these days, as the highest quality L-arginine supplement in the world. This proprietary formulation combines the powerful cardiovascular benefits of L-arginine with a variety of superior heart health ingredients to give your cardiovascular system optimum support. It's been in this book now for the last number of years, 5 or 6 years, I would say, every year. And so, this is a book that, particularly in the States, where doctors would use to help prescribe medications. So it's one of the most superior L-arginine supplements in the book. It used to be the only one in the book. Now, back in the day when I first joined, I joined in 2011, there'd not long been a study at the High Desert Heart Institute. And this was really interesting because Dr. Siva Aruna Salam, who was also working in the field of L-arginine, was interested to see what effect it would have on some really critical end-of-life cardiovascular patients. So these patients that were selected for the trial were, there were 33 high-risk patients. They were at the end of what the medical world could do for them. Some of them had had bypasses, some had had heart transplants, many were on oxygenation, a lot were drugged up to the eyeballs, and they were at the end of what the medical world could offer them. And so the test that they'd had was on equivalent of 4 sachets of ProArgi a day and 60 mils of Mystify a day. That was what they had in the study. And I met one of the people at the study who actually spoke for Synergy for years. His name was Angelo Ceci. Met him and his wife. And he basically, they'd read about this study, and he was on oxygen, and he'd basically been told to go home and start getting your papers in order, because he was, as far as you know, he was told there wasn't any more hope. And then I can't quite remember the circumstances as to how he came about the trial, but the cut long story short, he ended up being on this trial. And the results were so staggering that he ended up off oxygen, walking around, playing golf again, and having a life again, and consequently traveled with Synergy a fair bit, doing lots and lots of talks. And that's where I met him, was in Las Vegas, the very first year I joined, and sat by the swimming pool with him and his wife at a little cafe there, drinking coffee and talking about his circumstances. And it was really, really inspirational that he went from having no life and told to go home and get your papers in order to being able to play golf again and having a life with his family. And he used to take the products he used to take, we sort of like quizzing him, like, when do you take the products? How much do you take? And he would take, ProArgi was in tubs then, so it was scoops. So he would take 2 scoops of ProArgi in the morning and 2 with his dinner. And that was like, oh my God, you used to have it with your food. And he would say, yeah, I know some people say you've got to have it on an empty stomach, but I always have it with my dinner because that's when I remember to take it. And, it just goes to show that actually, just getting in the habit of having it is important, and it worked for him. But they looked at all of the different data points for this group of 33. And that's when they had these phenomenal results. Within the group, there was an average, taking the averages, an 18% increase in the good cholesterols, a 40% decrease in triglycerides, all sorts of effects on the liver, on the kidneys. Vitamin D levels increased by 183%. I mean, we all know how important it is for vitamin D right now. The systolic blood pressure decreased by an average of 13%, and diastolic an average of 17%. Of course, that would have been more for some and less for others. But, the results were absolutely significant. We certainly use these results often in communicating to people when we didn't have that much literature about ProArgi back in the day. Got a lot more literature about it now, but this is mentioned in the ProArgi ebook if you particularly wanted to see this data or share it with anybody. So then let's have a quick talk about ADMA. So we met a doctor called Dr. Boga, and he did a lot of studies on L-arginine, and he discovered that for some people there is an enzyme called asymmetric dimethylarginine. I can say that one. And this enzyme inhibits your body's ability to uptake and utilize L-arginine into nitric oxide. So even from your food, it kind of like disables your ability to use all of the available L-arginine and convert it into nitric oxide. And certainly people who end up with cardiovascular disease at quite a younger age, they are probably quite likely to have higher levels of ADMA in their blood. Now, we can't know for sure whether someone has ADMA or not. You know, there's no, there's private tests you could no doubt have, but there's certainly nothing available at your GP. And as I said on last week's call, you know, if people are not experiencing any noticeable change and they're saying to you, oh, I'm taking 1 or I'm taking 2, and I'm not noticing any difference, advise they take 3 and then 4 and see if they're starting to experience the difference then. Because when they take 3 or 4, then it is like the ADMA is trying to inhibit the alarginine, but you're taking more than you need, and it gives this surplus so that the alarginine starts to have an impact in your body. And Dr. Boger did lots of research with people with high levels of ADMA taking 4 ProArgi sachets a day, including himself, who had ADMA as part of that trial, and again was absolutely astonished at the results that he was seeing. It was a huge improvement in cardiovascular function. So the only way you're going to know really and truly is if people are not getting results. If they're trying to take ProArgi to normalize blood pressure and they're taking 2 a day and it's not having any impact, it could be because there's ADMA, an enzyme called ADMA, which they have, which is inhibiting that arginine uptake. So just have more and see how that goes then. Now, of course, it's not all about cardiovascular disease. This product is absolutely awesome for sports and fitness. It reduces the lactic acid buildup. So when you get the after aches from exercise, it really helps to, the circulation boost helps to reduce that. It helps improve muscle mass, greater oxygen to your cells and your tissues, and speeding up your recovery rates, anti-inflammatory to your joints. And this is why it was used by the I Am cycling team, which is a Tour de France team. If you actually go to the blog and search on the word athlete, you'll find many, many testimonials, most of them featuring ProArgi. It's been shown to increase performance by around 15%. And I know that when I was training for a marathon, and I'm not a runner, so trust me, you know, I didn't want to have lactic acid buildup. It made a massive difference to the speed of my recovery, especially when I was up doing sort of 15K, 20K training runs, 25, 30K, massive difference. And during the marathon, I think I must have had about 8 ProArgi. I didn't run that marathon very fast. And I had 2 as soon as I got home, 2 when I went to bed, and 6 the day before. And the day after that, I was absolutely fine. You know, my brother, on the other hand, couldn't walk for a week. But you know, I could walk up and down stairs. I was absolutely fine. It just blew me away at how quickly I managed to recover myself from that. So it's phenomenal, really. They did do some clinical studies on this using nitric oxide testing strips as well, which I think you can get these from Amazon. Never tried them myself, but it did show that within 30 minutes and 60 minutes, there was a definite nitric oxide uptake after consuming the product. So again, you know, if there's sports fans, that could be something to explore. But all of this data put together, and the cleanliness of the product is one of the reasons why this is listed on the clone list, which is the commitment to clean sport, you know, as well as some other synergy products. This is a European testing laboratory, really high structured testing actually, for, you know, and making sure there's no doping and that the products are clean. And of course it passed all those certifications. So you know, there's a fact sheet all about that, which you can read more details on if you want to. So let me just stop sharing there for a moment. I know I've gone through that quite fast. I wanted to answer a question that I definitely got from Paula about taking it at when to take the product, particularly at night. So in an ideal world, you want to take ProArgi, especially if you're having 2 sachets a day or 2 doses a day. But you definitely want to be taking it, you know, first thing in the morning, ideally on an empty stomach. Not the end of the world if not, but ideally on an empty stomach, or with your Mystify in the morning. If you're having that, you can have them both together. You can even have them both together in the same glass. It tastes delicious. Or with your E9, as I do. And then ideally you want the second dose directly before you go to bed. Now, what do we mean by directly before you go to bed? What we mean is making it in a small glass, like a small little tumbler, and taking it upstairs to bed with you and drinking it down as the very last thing you do before you turn the lights off and your head hits the pillow. So why do we say that? It's because the product works quick, very quick for some, and it starts to open the circulation, and so it starts to get more oxygen circulating around the body. Now, if someone has had it in the kitchen and it's 20 minutes, 25 minutes before they're actually turning the light out, in that 20-25 minutes, the nitric oxide effect can start to take place. They're circulating more oxygen, including to the brain, and it wakes the brain up with this fresh oxygen coming in, and suddenly the brain wants to think about stuff because, you know, it's got all this fresh oxygen, and before you know it, you're struggling to sleep. It's not so much that the product keeps you awake, it's the relaxing of the arteries and the increasing of the circulation. So that's why we recommend directly at bedtime before the lights go out. Now, for some, as in Paula's case, even taking it then, she just still finds that it keeps her awake. And that's, you know, there are always going to be exceptions to every rule. And if that is the case, then by all means bring it forward. Have it at an earlier time, whether it's 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock, or have 2 in the morning. You know, just have it at an earlier time of day that suits you. Taking it at night does have an extra layer of it. Your body goes into, you know, it produces human growth hormone, which is a repairing hormone that puts your body into a deep state of repair in your sleep. From the pineal gland, right tucked into the middle of your brain. So having this relaxation effect of the arteries at night is supporting your pineal gland to, pituitary gland it is, the pituitary gland, beg your pardon, to produce the human growth hormone and circulate it all around your body. So what you're doing is you're actually helping your body circulate human growth hormone, which is helping your body to go into repair states at night. And that is one of the key benefits of having it directly before sleep, is to get that human growth hormone circulating in your body. So I would say to people to really have it at night if you can, and if you can't, have it at night because, you know, you're up during the night thinking about stuff, you know, as good as that might be, but just bring it forward, and it's really not the end of the world. Now, this product will, you know, potentially have quite an impact on blood pressure. So if people are on blood pressure medication, it would be well advised that they work with their doctor, especially if they are wanting to come off their medication. If they've got blood pressure monitor at home, which a lot of people do these days, they're not very expensive, then they can take their own blood pressure at home and monitor it. If they are taking their blood pressure at home, then just advise them to take it at the same time of day under the same circumstances. So whether it's when you're, you know, first thing in the morning, that's the first thing you do, or when you're at a relaxed state, so that they have continuity. You know, you don't want to do it after a big full meal 1 minute, empty stomach the next minute, just after exercise 1 minute, after you've just woken up from a sleep the next minute. You're not going to get continuity. So if they are taking their own blood pressure, just try and make sure the circumstances are fairly similar, so that they can get a better benchmark. Makes sense, doesn't it? So let me just see if please unmute if you asked a question. I'm just going to have a look back now and see if I can see any questions quickly. But if anyone wants to unmute and share a question, then I'm happy to, or share a story, then we can have another 5 minutes on that. Just trying to see if I can.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, by all means.
There was a conversation on the chat a wee while ago about the L-arginine, and like one of the side effects is listed on the web, on the infamous World Wide Web, is that too much can cause loose bowels. And I think it was Kat who put something about, like, she made a comment which suggested that that might be the case with our L-arginine, but wasn't necessarily the case for our one, you know, how it's made up. I don't know if Kat can shed any light on that, or if you
don't remember that. I think, oh. No, I don't remember that. Was it me?
I think it was. I don't know.
Okay. I might have been having a good brain moment then. I'm definitely not having a good brain moment right now.
In all honesty, Lisa, anyone can have bowel tolerance issues about all sorts of things when you bring something in new.
Mm-hmm.
The bowels are such a sensitive thing, you know. So I would suggest that if someone is having loose bowel movements, when they start to take it, say on 1 sachet a day, that they well, there's a few options. Obviously, one is to do the gut reset and sort their gut out, but you know, they could reduce it down to a lower amount, like half a sachet. They could have some probiotics like the Bioactives to just get a little bit better gut flora, and just build up. I mean, we used to get some bowel issues like back in the day, but then that was mainly the xylitol that it used to be sweetened with more than anything. But I would say bowel issues are quite a low proportion of people that would have bowel issues with this product going straight in off the bat, to be honest with you. But of course, there are bound to be some, and they just need to have less and maybe look at other things to help heal the gut.
Oh, thank you.
It's boosting circulation to there as well, isn't it? So I mean, it's going to have a little bit of an effect, especially if they're particularly sensitive. But I think that's the same for. It's about, I think it's more about pointing out the fact that the product hasn't caused the problem, as in they're not intolerant to it. It's the physical effects that it's having on the body, which are a good thing, but there might be a short-term hump to get over.
Yeah.
Lisa, I would put them onto Purify. I've had a couple of clients with that, and they've done Purify and now absolutely adore ProArgi, wouldn't be without it. So it's the gut health speaking.
Thank you,
Kim,
Deb.
got a question.
Yeah, fire away, Sabrina.
Hi. Yeah, sorry. So in the case you got a client, so you don't really know if he's got a DMA enzyme. So you go, like, say, they come back to you, they say, I tried ProArgi, I didn't have any effect. So you recommend straight away, like 4 sachets, like 1 in the morning, 1 at lunch, and then 1 in the afternoon and 1 before bed. Something like that.
I would recommend that I mean, it depends on whether they're only on 1 a day. I would encourage them to increase to 2. If they're on 2 a day, increase to 3, and then 4. It takes 4 days for the maximum nitric oxide effect to take place because it builds in the body.
So it's 4 spread in a day, not all together.
You can do 4 spread in a day. I think there's no reason why not. But for the majority of people, it's easier to have like 2 in the morning and 2 at night, or 1 in the morning, 1 in a drinks container they drink throughout the day, and then another 1 at night. I think it's about people fitting into their best, you know, environment, really. But
Yeah. No, just if there is a protocol for them, because if they got this enzyme, definitely the effect is going to be lower. So just for understanding, if they have to go like high doses, basically.
Yeah, so 2 and 2 is quite often 2 in the morning and 2 at bed.
Okay, thank you.
That's what I've always had clients do.
Kim?
Yes, Guy.
I take 1 a day, and having had a heart attack 6 years ago, I have cut down my aspirin intake to half a day, and my cholesterol level is sitting at 3.8.
Excellent.
And my GP and the head of practice was that skeptical. I thought, right, that's fine. There you are. I said, you can have a look at that, because that product is on your what do you call it, GP's manual. And if you want to know any more about it and any other products that I am involved with, because I also have Mystify and Vitalife and E9 all together in one glass. It's a 1.5 pint glass every morning on an empty stomach, and boy does it give you a kick up the backside to start the day.
Absolutely perfect. Well done, Guy.
And I would, if I had met Kath David, and I would not have known anything about ProArgi 9, and I have a client whose wife has been given a terminal illness, and I gave him a P9 brochure on Friday, and he rang me this morning, and I have to go and I'm going to see them on Wednesday. And I said, I can't, I'm not a doctor. I said, but if I can help your wife be comfortable, I said, that's a start. Because if she's comfortable in her body, she'll be comfortable in her mind. And that will help prolong whatever she's got. Yeah. I hope.
Well done, Guy. Thank you for sharing that. That's really great. And I just want to quickly, I know we've been going on a bit tonight, but Sarah Crossman was asking about people on blood thinners. Again, you know, they've got to work with their GP. ProArgi 9 doesn't have a direct impact on thinners, because the thinners are dealing with the blood inside the arteries. ProArgi 9 is dealing with the artery itself. So it's not affecting the blood. But that said, people who are on thinners, they get regular tests anyway. You know, they should be. I've known many people that have naturally needed to reduce those. But, you know, I just think that's because the body is circulating better. The health is better in general. And a lot of medications can be tweaked and changed as the body is better. But there isn't a direct correlation as such, because one is the blood and one is the arteries, if that makes sense. But again, they should discuss it with their doctor. You know, like I said, we're not doctors. So people are on any kind of medication. It's not our job to be doctors. They need to go discuss the ingredients with their doctor. Okay, guys. So, you know, I probably could answer a few more questions, but I knew this might take a while. But I hope it's just given you confidence to talk about this product. It's made so much difference to so many people. I remember one of my early case studies was a guy called Kirk, who had, I think I might have shared this one already, but he had a threatening detached retina, and your eyes are so need circulation. He started on the ProArgi 9, and not necessarily thinking it would have an impact on his threatening to detach retina. But when he went back to a checkup at Moorfields Eye Hospital, they couldn't see any signs, not only of the retina not detaching, but they couldn't see any damage either. They thought they'd written the notes wrong. So it really had a massive impact on his the circulation behind his eyes. And I've had all manner of stories of people with, you know, blood pressure issues, and people with ulcerated legs healing. You know, geez, it's quite shocking really, the sorts of things that can happen. But again, you know, you improve circulation, it's going to have an impact in your body, you know, at sometimes a very profound level. So anyway, I best let you go, otherwise we'll be talking about this product for another half an hour. But I really hope that you found it helpful tonight. I know I've gone through it really fast, but enjoy the rest of your week, guys, and I look forward to catching up with you again soon. Take care. Bye.